Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I got another scam series video. Now, this time I got to talk about the country of America. Is there an American dream or an American scheme? Is America a dream or is America a scheme? Now, that depends on who you ask. Now, if you are one who is in the elite class and you've come from fame and fortune, you're going to believe America is a dream. But now, if you're one who lives in oppression or you're a victim or you say life isn't fair, of course, life isn't fair. And you're going to have envy by calling anyone who's from the upper class greedy. You believe America is a scheme or a scam. Now, I'm going to say this about America. I was in the military for 17 years, so I fought for my country. Now, every country has its problems. But I will tell you, and you have some people out here I heard on YouTube who love Marxism and capitalism and those totalitarian regimes. Let me tell you this. Unless you've been to those other countries, you don't even know what real communism is. You don't even know what Marxism is. In fact, you have a number of individuals who are on the left side of the political spectrum. I call them the loony liberals. They believe that everything is oppression, even though a number of them, like your Joy Behars, your LeBron James, they've made millions. But yet they still live in the aura of victimization, of racism. Now, I will tell you this about life. Life has never been fair. We all do not start at the same time. We all start from different environments. But what I will tell you is, when we look at the country, one thing I can tell you, if you go to other countries and you talk about the government, the way individuals have talked about our government, and don't get me wrong, our government is sleazy as hell. It is. Our government is supposed to be representative government, where you have other governments, or they're totalitarian. And if you talk about other government officials, used to be Russia, China, Venezuela, Cuba, with the late Fidel Castro. Now, I believe his brother, Raul Castro, is still running that island. Well, you might have some soldiers knocking at your door. And once they knock at your door, they're going to take you out and they might put a bullet in your head. That's how totalitarian regimes are. And you had some people, particularly the loony liberals out there, who love people like Mao Zedong, or I say Mao, killed well over 8 million people. You've had individuals like Lenin, Stalin, and Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx was a communist, but he didn't want to be looked at as a communist, so he sold Marxism. And you have a lot of these professors who come over here from regimes, but yet they want to sell us how good totalitarianism is, but they come over here getting away from totalitarianism. And these professors are in some of the colleges teaching our children. Now, is that a scheme too? I believe it is a scheme. Why? Because if where you come from was so good, you'd still be there. Now, again, when you look at economies. America is not totally capitalist. Now, I will tell you, capitalism gets bad when you have a lot of crony capitalists and a lot of greedy individuals. That's where capitalism is bad. Now, I know I heard one show last night, and a gentleman talked about where he lived over in Europe. He says they have good health care. It's they have socialism and capitalism. It's mainly socialism. You must understand when you are in countries such as Portugal and Sweden, they can handle a system like that because they're not taking care of 350 million people. Plus, you have numerous people coming into our country. But you have to look at what's going on. Now, of course, if you didn't have some programs there, guess what? You wouldn't have government workers because you have government workers who are working the welfare programs. They're getting paid. But again, if you have an opportunity, is it a dream or is it a scheme? It that depends on the person because you have a number of individuals who've never had businesses, they've never run a business. So many of them are basically employees. And employees always tell you something isn't fair, well, you're an employee. They don't understand what it is to run a business. They didn't take the risk. They go get a paycheck and go home. Of course, you're not going to make as much as a CEO. But again, does that answer the question? It could. See, it depends on what your perspective of the dream really is. Because again, everybody's not on the same level. Now, in India, they have a caste system. Here we have a class system. And if you're a minority, you're left out of that class system by way of racism. Yes, it's still out there. Racism is just you have the so-called ruling class. They want to alienate minorities on the social, economic, and the political process. That's what it is. But again, does it answer the question? Is America a dream or a scheme? Let's get into some information here. All right, as we deal with America, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was etched by the supporters of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Now, the original law of the land had no income tax, but neither did it have the right to public education. Now, the country was innocent, wide open, and free for all those entitled to access land. And generally, the people who had the access were white landowners. I didn't say white people, white landowners. And plenty of opportunity for those with the gumption to head out and make a name for themselves. White non landowners, white non landowners. Now, remember, you had blacks who had slaves too. You had whites who didn't have slaves. Now, over the years, more rules and regulations congealed to continually re-entrench the vested interest, which is why hundreds of thousands of pages of laws are needed to protect those to have. So you have laws on top of laws. Well, American society was prosperous in the mid 20th century as imperial policies positioned the U.S. and the center of productivity, and the oligarchs shared a percentage by forceful demands of the polis of accumulated largest with a growing but manageable populace. Homes, cars, and access to education was cheap and widespread, and there were attempts to deal with inequity between the races and classes of society. Now, over the years, however, the historic conservatism of the American vision has slowly sucked up the U.S. tree of hope and opportunity. Today, inequality stands at historic highs, and precariat class faces a wall of opposition to scaling the American dream. Now, there is a wall of inflated home values making ownership out of reach for many millennials, a wall of historically low infrastructure investment, the wall of public divestment in education, meaning a quality college degree costing in excess of $100,000. Now, the specter of a healthcare system waiting to put you in $250,000 in debt if you have a calamitous health injury. Now, the wall of a thriving system of incarceration patrolling the corridors of the ghettos while the white collar criminals in high places toast with champagne impunity, and the perpetual haunting of a vocational system is based on meritocracy, social networks, and racial and gender disparity. Now, the median wealth for people of color is 10% that of the white populace, and the United States military is the last bastion of opportunity for otherwise put your money or your life. Now, the American dream is closed, and America is awake to the reality of oligarchies for the protection of inherited wealth, for the perpetuation of a largest caste system empowering the 1% and their selected tributes in the top 10%, while the bottom 90% spiral into destinies of mediocrity. There are no town centers, only the other side of the tracks and in gated communities. Now, the vying to implement their way of life and exalt the divisions into permanent placards of winners and losers, demagogues holding on to the vague platitudes of freedom, hope, and greatness while slowly being swallowed by the coalition of the rest of the world against the United States, indentured imperialism boasting empty fiat coffers and a bankrupt countenance and accounting of morality. The world teeters on the brink of the next economic transformation. And the dream has become a scheme. Now, looking at that for a moment, when it comes to America, we've all been promised something. And this is where the scam lies. The scam lies in the person who's believing the illusion. Now, I will tell you, America does look like an illusion, especially if you're struggling. Now, the reason why we're struggling is because a lot of the competition is being bought up, jobs have been outsourced, politicians have been bought. We don't have good individual families, particularly in the Black community. The education system is toast. The healthcare system is toast. We have everybody running amok in the peasant class, but the ruling class, they say everything is all right. Why? Because they make the rules and they want to protect all of their assets. That's why they make rules to keep the peasant class from getting what they believe that they've earned, but the peasant class has bought from these rulers. And you have some of these individuals at the top who are from America, like your Bill Gates and your Jeff Bezos, who want to decrease the population so they'll have more. Now, again, I love capitalism, but where capitalism fails is you have too many oligarchs. You have too many greedy people. Now, believe it or not, even with socialism, guess what? You have the government that's the center of all the resources, but they even make big money from socialism. So you think about it, you have two economic systems, they don't work. And it's not the systems, it's the people who are running the systems. Whether you're in Europe or whether you're in the United States, the bottom line is to the people at the top, they believe America is a scheme. Is a dream where people at the bottom think it's a scheme. Then you have mass incarcerations. You have a number of individuals who are committing suicide. You have wages, they haven't caught up with inflation. You have basically, because the people at the top have tax shelters, they know how to protect their money. They actually can pay for security. This is why you heard some of the loony leftists out there say they wanted to defund the police. Why? No, they didn't want me to have police protection, but they wanted police protection. So they wanted it all for themselves. This is why we have career politicians or career bureaucrats, because they know that the job is gravy and they're protected all times. Their healthcare system isn't like our healthcare system. Their Social Security is not like our Social Security system. So you have to ask yourself, is America a dream or is America a scheme or a scam? Again, that depends on who's looking at everything. Let me show you a couple of videos and we'll get more into this. Fair use. This is for educational use only. And this is going to be some short videos. Get right back in here. As I got my sound shared. Let's go.
If you're looking to buy a house before you buy an investment property, that is the stupidest thing you could ever do in your life, and it'll haunt you financially. And it's the number one reason why so many Americans can't get ahead and get stuck in life financially. Here's why. When you buy a house, most people like yourself are probably gonna put your life savings that you've worked your ass off for into that house. And now that house becomes a liability, because a liability takes more money out of your bank account every single month. A house, you have to pay the mortgage, you have to pay the bank interest payments, and you're paying down the principal, you're paying the property taxes, you're paying the water bill, you're paying the electric bill. With an investment property, the tenants pay for all that. The tenants pay the mortgage, the tenants pay all the utilities. And on top of that, you cash flow every single month, and your tax benefits are way higher than owning a home. So if you buy a house before you buy an investment property, this is the reason why the fake American dream will get you.
Fair use. Show you another one. And these videos, this gentleman is going to tell you why he believes the American dream is a huge scam. Fair use.
If you're looking to buy a house before you buy an investment property, that is the stupidest thing you could ever do in your life, and it'll haunt you financially. And it's the...
Excuse me for that one. We've already seen that one. So let's try something different. Fair use.
My husband, Bob, has Parkinson's. He needs more help, and I need more support. With Indiana Pathways for Aging, Hoosier.
The frustration is mounting when it comes to being able to find an affordable American dream. The dream to buy a house, whether that's home prices that continue to climb, interest rates that do not seem to be coming down, the most affordable homes in your area being sucked up by institutional Wall Street investors. And now there's another thing to worry about, and that's AI. Today, we're going to be addressing all of those pain points when it comes to finding the affordable American dream with the most recent articles. And I'm going to give you my opinion when it comes to AI and the real estate market. market because I think it's going to be a nightmare.
People are calling this a housing bubble. Is it a bubble?
I don't see it's a bubble. I think that people are trying to take the lessons from the 2008 crash and bring them forward almost 20 years. And I just don't see that happening.
It's no secret that the reason why the home prices have remained high is because of the lack of supply. And that just means there isn't enough houses for people to purchase that want to purchase right now. And what they don't really say is there isn't enough affordable houses for people to purchase because many people are approved for a loan. There just isn't anything for them available right now. And those numbers for housing right now are still going to continue to go up because they're still not building enough. According to Bloomberg, residential home starts, meaning the homes that they're starting to build, had decreased 14.8%. And I've been telling you that builders have this confidence index and they've been feeling uneasy about the housing market quite a bit.
Coming out of the Great Recession, builders were apprehensive to get back in the market in a big way, fearful of putting too much supply in the market and regenerating that big boom market that we had in the 2000s.
And as interest rates continue to go up, that means they have less confidence in being able to sell those houses, so they're not going to build as many. Now, according to these numbers, the biggest sector that's going to be affected by this is multifamilies. They're still pretty confident in residential housing. Hopefully that those numbers that they're showing right now as those residential starts will be the most affordable homes. Every economist under the sun will tell you what drives any housing market, even in the worst housing markets in history, are first-time home buyers. If we do not have enough of those first-time home buyers to be able to find a home, the housing market's going to be coming to a screeching halt, especially as more people are locked into their rates. We have over 60% of people currently right now have an interest rate that is under 5%. What would even make them want to sell their home now? Home builders do realize that most sellers aren't going to want to sell right now if they're locked into that rate. So luckily for you, if you are trying to find an affordable home for you, a lot of home builders are working with home buyers to get them, first of all, a better interest rate. Secondly of all, they're giving you more incentives to buy, like upgrades to your house, like new flooring. And thirdly of all, they're offering lower closing costs and lower closing fees. So there's ways to get into a house if you have the income to purchase it. It just seems like right now there isn't enough affordable homes in most areas for people to purchase. I will tell you also this, if you have more new construction in your area, the more likelihood of you finding more affordable home in your area is going to be a lot higher, and your negotiation power is going to be a lot higher as well. Those of us who don't live in an area that has a lot of new construction, you're going to see your market be a lot tighter when it comes to home prices and your negotiation power. To this day, in a lot of markets, with the most affordable homes in your area, you can still get into some housing markets that are still having bidding wars. It's a crazy real estate market right now. Crazy.
Daryl Fairweather, Redfin's chief economist, doesn't mince words, labeling today's market as the least affordable housing market in recent memory. The culprits? A concoction of high demand spurred by the pandemic and remote work.
I mean, that home buyers should have a slightly easier time this year compared to last year. But from a historical perspective, it's still not a great time to be a home buyer.
Let's talk about institutional investors. The thing that all of these articles recently have come out with is the fact that the institutional investors don't own that much. They say they only own about 2% in the market.
And let me pause this for a moment here. See, they're talking about houses. Housing is part of the American dream. That is true. Now, when it comes to housing, in order for you to buy a house, you have, just like anything else. I mean, you look at cars, the price of used cars has gone way up. There are used cars out there that are 5, 6, 7 years old that are $20,000. The problem is the cost of goods and services keep rising. And just like I mentioned, wages can't keep up with the cost of goods and services. I mean, if you look at college education, back 40 years ago, you could go to college for a lot less. In fact, not everybody went to college either, so it was much easier for you to pay for college. You didn't need as much financial aid. Now you have the financial aid and you have individuals taking up a lot of loans out. And regardless of what your degree is in, you have a number of individuals who end up on debt. That's not the American dream right there. Credit cards. That's another thing. You have a lot of credit cards that are high interest. I mean, 20, 25%. Some of these credit cards like Credit One, they make you pay a $95 annual fee. And when it comes to credit cards, they make you pay the minimum. And when you pay the minimum, you're only paying down the interest. You're not paying down principal. And then what happens? Can't pay that credit card off. It'll go to collections somewhere like a Calvary, and then Calvary wants to sue you because you can't pay that debt off. So what's happening is many of us are going to work because you have more workers out here, overall, the workers are paying most of the taxes, believe it or not. They may not make $180, $190 million a year, but you don't have enough of those individuals making that kind of money. But now those individuals who have all the money, all the resources, yes, they can live the life of luxury because they can afford it. They can afford the best lawyers. They can afford the best cars. So whoever's in power, they're not affected. But people like myself who have to get up and go to work every day, sometimes we have to work overtime. Sometimes we get shorter. We got to pay for health insurance. We have to pay for our own 401k Ks out of our paychecks. And then with your 401ks, some of us have a 457. Well, if the market isn't good, you can lose money in your 457 or your 401k plan. If you have to withdraw money from your retirement, you're going to get penalized 20%. Now, what I've just mentioned to you are ways that America is a scheme. Fair use. Let's continue.
What they love to do now is blame the mom and pop investors that own one or two houses, and they say they're the issue of what's happening with the housing market and why there's such a crunch on so many affordable homes. According to this, it says Adam Travis tabulated the Zillow data, and investors were at least 1,000 properties owned just 2% of the small rental properties, single family homes and multifamily structures, though 12% of those properties were owned by some corporate entity. By comparison, micro investors or mom and pop landlords owned 66% of the small rental properties. They're trying to vilify the tiny mom and pop investors, the ones that are trying to supplement their retirement fund. And they're trying to make the corporate investors look like really they own such a small percentage of the housing market. But let's just look at this recent article by Business Insider. And it says investors bought a record 26% of affordable homes, the affordable ones, in the U.S. in the last quarter. According to this, it said Redfin reported on Wednesday that property investors snapped up 26.1% of low-priced homes that were for sale in the fourth quarter, hitting a record share. Zooming in on low-priced accounted for 46.5% of investor purchases. And then the article goes on to say, like everyone else looking to buy a home in 2024, investors want to buy cheap if they can, but affordable homes are scarce. Inventory is low across the country, and sellers cling to lower mortgage rates they have locked in years ago. Corporate investors, Wall Street investors, have deeper pockets when it comes to buying houses. They are not as rate sensitive as the traditional first-time home buyer. So even though rates have gone up and gone down just a little bit and gone up again, that doesn't stop them from buying the most affordable homes in some of the most populated areas across the country. Now, there has been some legislation that's been proposed, but nothing has been signed or even looked at as voted on. Everybody remembers that how a bill becomes a law.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
It's just a bill that's sitting on paper. It's just words on a paper, and nothing is going to be done about it, if you ask me. Corporate investors are going to be continuing to be able to buy as many affordable homes across the country with no repercussion or anything to stop them at this time. And even at the end of this article, they've started to blame mom and pops. According to the data from the Housing and Urban Development institutions accounted for 3% of all home purchases in 2021. And the major investor money behind the U.S. buying spree in recent years has been so-called mom and pop buyers. Really? To me, this is like they're trying to do what they've been doing to us for years. And that is to blame the little guy for all the major problems. It isn't the big company that's been poisoning the lakes and rivers for years why there's a depletion of fish in that lake. No, it's because you've been fishing in there for too many times during off season, and that's why there isn't enough fish. Of course, the little person has caused a little bit of a problem, but we can't just ignore the big problem over here, the institutional investor, because this guy decided to buy a house, an affordable house, and rent it out just to supplement his retirement income because he no longer has a pension and his 401k right now is worthless. It's these people. They're the issue. No more pointing fingers at the little guy trying to just make it in this world today. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Christopher Mayer, an economist from Columbia University, paints a stark picture, likening modern housing to a luxury good. This shift has been dramatic, with the median sales price for existing homes soaring over 40% from early 2020 to mid-2022, reaching the $400,000 mark.
When the media is done blaming mom and pop investors for the shortage of supply in the area, they turn to another group of people. Now they're blaming baby boomers for the shortage of supply. According to Fox Business, blame baby boomers for the shortage of supply. Findings published by real estate brokerage Redfin shows that baby boomers who are currently between the ages of 57 to 75 are aging in place, which is fueling both a nationwide inventory shortage and rising prices. Again, we're going to go ahead and blame the little guy because he can't afford to buy another house somewhere else. Interest rates are too high. Home prices are too high. We got to stop doing this. The article goes on to say the typical homeowner spends close to 12 years in their home in 2023. That nearly doubled the average of 2 decades ago. This is where they get into the blame game. Previously, older generations would move into a smaller home once they retired, which has freed up inventory for younger families and first-time homebuyers. Boomers are reaching retirement age and they're choosing to stay put, therefore not freeing up the existing housing supply. So now we're going to blame baby boomers. This is insanity to me. Let's just think about this reasonably. What are they going to do? Where are they supposed to go? Many people have already paid off their mortgage and they have a fixed income. We already have rising insurance rates and property taxes, and they can't afford to sell their house to move somewhere else because they're not building any smaller homes to move to. You can't blame a generation of people not being able to find another house in order to free up the housing supply. For many years, they promised us a silver tsunami. All these baby boomers were going to sell their larger homes or even smaller homes to move into a retirement area. And that hasn't come to fruition because of inflation. The solution is so simple. Build a bunch of affordable homes for people to be able to move into. We cannot blame baby boomers for this problem. This is a problem that's been going on since 2008. We have not built enough homes. You can just look at this graph right here. We stopped building new housing, and slowly we started building up our housing supply after a decade of not building because of what happened in 2008. We can't even really blame the home builders for not wanting to build as much supply because they're not going to be held with a bunch of empty, vacant properties if interest rates go up because they're scared of losing their business. A lot of them did back in 2008. The only way we're going to get out of this situation is to build more homes. And my solution to this is that we work with local governments and offer builders incentives to build affordable homes, whether that's single family, multifamily, every area can decide on what they want. But there has to be some kind of tax incentive.
We stop it right here. First of all, okay, the ages of baby boomers at 57 and 75 was incorrect. 57 and 59, that's early Gen Xers like me. Now, the baby boomers, believe it or not, they are to blame for some of what's going on out here because they created a nice pension system for themselves, particularly in the private sector, where a number of and we can even go back to the silent generation, they could work at a company for 30 years and retire from that company and have a nice pension. They didn't have to worry about staggering wages. We do. Now, as far as the homes, something that she hasn't really mentioned because she's talking about homes, you look at rents. After 2020, rent has shot up. Used to be you could rent an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment. I live here in Indiana. About before the Rona, you could get a 2-bedroom apartment in some areas, pretty decent areas for $700-800 a month. Now we're all paying $1,000 or more. So that's a problem. Something else. If anybody's eating at a fast food restaurant, I mean, I could go and get some nice fast food, get a burger and fries. Used to be for about $6. Now you're paying $10. So the price of everything has gone up. Taxes are going up. But we're fighting wars like Ukraine. We're spending our money. The government has a lot of debt, but we're sending money where it shouldn't go. We're not helping our own American citizens out. The bottom line, there has to be more incentives to keep jobs here. I know unions raise wages. So a lot of your private sector, now your public sectors still have unions, but your private sectors don't have unions. And this is where capitalism fails. You have a number of American companies who are going overseas. Why? Cheaper labor. This is why you don't have resource like steel made here. If they want to build a bridge, a number of places from overseas have that steel. America is importing it here. Now, what you can do for these American companies to keep them here, you can charge a large tariff on these American companies to keep them here. Now, something else. You have the big corporations. They don't want the small boys around because the small boys are the competition. About 60 to 65%, and I'm roughly speaking, of your small businesses create most of the jobs. But if you think about it, you have a lot of mergers. You look at cell phones. We used to have 4 major cell phone companies. Now we have 3. You have the big giants. They're actually controlling the market. You see, what you have to understand about the United States is a corporation. Your president, your vice president, you think about the organizational structure. The bottom line is the people at the top, they want to make money. You look how much it costs to go to a sporting event. If you went to the championship game, and yeah, my Purdue Boilermakers, they lost to Connecticut. But to get into that game, it was $419. Now that's for a college game. Now I went to an Ohio State, Illinois game back in 2015. It was $63 to get in. That's the cost of getting a seat in the nosebleed section of a football game. You look at the cost of gas. It keeps going up. It's going down. So, of course, the big guy wants to blame the little guy. Now, when we talk about welfare, we talk about the poorer people getting welfare, but do you know there's corporate welfare too? See, what people don't understand about socialism as well, redistribution of wealth. Well, redistribution of wealth just doesn't go to poor people. It's going upstream as well. And guess where it's coming from? It's coming from people like me who pay the taxes. So you have some crony capitalists who don't believe in socialism, but if they own that corporation, their stockholders are part of it, the board of directors, they embrace socialism. Why? Because it benefits them. Fair use. Let's continue.
for home builders in order to build the most affordable homes for their specific area. Most areas in the United States, the median income can't afford the median home in that specific area. We are compounding this problem year after year if we continue to go down this road of not building enough affordable housing.
And AI is actually going to take a center stage when it comes to a lot of our education sessions. I do think that there is a role, whether it's architecture, whether it's finding problems. I've heard, you can use AI programs to solve some of your punch list items.
That clip you just saw is Jim Tobin. He's the CEO of the National Home Builders Association. And as excited as he is about AI, I'm equally as terrified of it. I don't know if you've seen just recently, ChatGPT is an AI service that is offered to the public, and anybody can use it, where you can make all sorts of things, whether you can make an AI created image or AI created blog posts. It has many different functions. They have just released the fact that they have created AI video, meaning that you could type in any kind of prompt saying, give me an inside tour of a beautiful, affordable home in Cincinnati, inside and out. And this will give you an actual tour of a home that does not exist. I know from what I've created on this channel talking about affordable housing, how many scams are out there today. There are thousands of fake websites that are created with AI generated images of these tiny houses or these modular homes. Can you imagine if you added another layer of fake videos of home tours? People are going to be genuinely fooled by this. They have been by photographs that are all over like Instagram and Facebook, and people have been putting down deposits on homes that do not exist. This is going to make it even easier for these types of scams to continue. And that's just one specific use that you could use AI video. There's so many other ways. Right now is the time, before it is released to the masses, that we need to put in some kind of legislation that stops this kind of AI video where it could be used for scams. I think that the penalty for using this type of scam that doesn't exist yet, but it will, should be so steep that nobody will even think about using AI generated videos to make a fake product like a tiny home or a modular home. Because I know, and I've seen how many people have been manipulated in the past. If they add video to this, it's going to cause a huge problem. But I want to know what you think. You let me know in the comments section below. To watch more videos about the American dream here in the United States, you're going to want to watch these videos right here. My name is Christina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.
My husband, Bob, has Parkinson's. He needs more help, and I need more support.
And you can get over there and subscribe to Christine's channel. But now here's my take on everything too. You're talking about making legislation. Well, you want to know who the biggest crooks are? They are your legislatures, the ones who have the purse strings. They're making all the rules. So are you going to charge the big fish with coercion? No, you're not. The bottom line, many of us, and AI is out there too, and that's another thing, this social media. It's created a lot of things. See, you can Photoshop anything today, use AI. If you look on your billboards, or if you look on television, you look at some of these food commercials, a hamburger. Well, what you see on television, you don't have in the real world. But what they do, they can convince you, your eyes. And this is what a scam is. A scam gets you to react. That's what they want to do. And they get you to be desperate. They put you in desperation. Like now, a number of you right now are getting scam calls. I know I'm getting scam calls. You have used car dealers right now. People are getting income tax checks back. And what's happening, we believe as the small people, when we go out and buy materials, we've made it. Those are tangible materials. Are they worth anything? You know, the little guy, we don't invest. Many of us don't have enough to invest. Many of us don't even know what worth really is. We think worth is cash. No, cash is just it's a small portion. You need, you know, some people are doing crypto, uh, bonds, stocks. You have to have money in order to really invest. Many of us are living payday to payday. Some of us are working overtime, some of us aren't. But if you think about it, a lot of the wages, in my humble opinion, I know you have individuals who are trying to keep their businesses open. And you know, you have some loons out there that want to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. Well, minimum wage is still 7.25 an hour. However, you have McDonald's, you have these fast food restaurants. I know when I worked at fast food restaurants, I was making 289 and 335 an hour back in the early 80s. Now you look at, you can even pay somebody $20 an hour, but you're still going to make the same amount of money because that business, in order to keep you, they're going to work you part-time. They're not going to have enough to pay for your health insurance. They're not going to have enough to pay for any benefits. So even the American dream, having a decent job, it's all a scam. In other words, it's slavery gone wrong. That's what it is. I know I work in the civil engineering field. A lot of your bigger companies, they're buying up the smaller companies. And when you work for civil engineer consultants, you're stagnating. You're not going to be able to move anywhere because they have large expenses. So what I can tell you is, if you really want to have the American dream, this is the only way you can do it. You have to live within your means, because the American dream that you set for yourself is going to be different from somebody else. Why? They may have more or they may have less. And if you think about it that way, don't compare yourself to somebody else. You live within your means, then it'll be a dream. But if you're worried about what somebody else is making and you're envious and you're jealous, this is why you have individuals who are one percenters attacking one percenters so they don't feel bad. They they act like they're looking out for the little guy. They're not looking out for the little guy. No, it's envy. And when you envy or you want what somebody else has, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be jealous, or you're going to try to take it from them, and you're going to end up in jail. And you got a lot of these jails out here. I just saw a movie tonight with Tyrese Gibson and Terrence Howard called The System. They were in a privatized, and you have a lot of privatized prisons. You have the military industrial complex where you have a number of individuals making money off of war. That's crony capitalism. And that's because you have the cronies out there. We look at the bad of capitalism, but we don't look at the good. The bottom line is we have too many corporations that are controlling the market. You look at the grocery store chains like Kroger, Albertsons, they were trying to merge. Well, they want to alleviate the competition by merging. You look at your cable companies out here. You have Comcast. You have, well, Time Warner was bought by AT&T. But that's the problem. The competition, once all the competition's bought up, you have no choice. And guess what? You got to go with who controls the market. And it's like it's like your gas stations. You have one gas station within 10 miles of you, they can raise their price to $10 a gallon if they want to. Why? Because there's no competition. So really, people who are your real wealthy, I'm not saying that there are no honest ones there who are wealthy, but you have a lot of crooks there too. And a bottom line, if you take this video and you think about what I'm saying, you have to look at where you are in life. If you have the employee mindset, or if you have the oppression mindset, America is a scheme. But if you're doing well based on what you need to do, and don't worry about what the next person is doing, and you're comfortable, then it's the dream. Again, the question is America the dream, or is it a scheme? You be the judge. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just mentioned, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, you check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, once I finish recording all of my videos from both channels, QCIS channel and the 411 Talk Zone radio show channel, I post those videos on my Twitter page. Now, since the QCIS channel is an educational channel, you can find the QCIS channel on my LinkedIn page. And for you all who are on my LinkedIn page, if you're not going to go to my videos and watch them, I'm not there to make friends or communicate. I'm there to provide education and professionalism. If you want socialization to socialize, well, you got the wrong guy. I'm there to provide individuals with information from LinkedIn, since it's a professional site, about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Period. And in the end, be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. And if you don't like the shoe, change it. And I use that phrase for all the individuals who get bent out of shape when the truth is being told. So a number of individuals can't deal with the truth. And that also becomes part of, are you living the dream, or are you living the scheme? Once again, that concludes this content about the American dream, scheme, or dream. Right here, 411 Talk Zone radio show. Again, that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Again, if you like what I just presented, comment, share, and subscribe. Otherwise, keep striving. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.